At the QB position meet this weekend in Oxford when Ole Miss hosts Liberty. Former Auburn QB Malik Willis has 30 total touchdowns on the year for Liberty. Lane Kiffin said this week because of his first-round talent, this is like lining up against another SEC opponent. But luckily for Lane, he's got a first-round arm leading the Rebels. And Matt Corral, he could be the first one off the board come this spring. CBS Sports Draft Guru Ryan Wilson has Corral going in the top 10 in his latest mock draft. Carson Strong at Nevada could go at number 11 to the Broncos. And there's Willis sneaking in at the end of the first round, 30th to the Lions. And with that, let's bring in Ryan Wilson. Folks will certainly hear Liberty next to Willis's name and think, really? First round QB there? So, Ryan, is he really that good?
Oh, that's the thing, Mike. He is not, as we sit here, have a first-round grade from me. And when you talk to some NFL teams, they have day 2 grades on him as well. But here's the thing about Malik Willis. The upside is through the roof. I know that sounds trite, but it's the truth. I was at the Syracuse game early this year, and there are a lot of things I like about the way he plays. He can run, number one, which is what every NFL quarterback seems to do in today's NFL. He can throw the ball through the wall, which is also incredibly important. He just needs to clean up some things and play with more consistency. He didn't play out against Syracuse. They actually ended up losing that game at the end. So 2 games on the calendar for NFL scouts and GMs and personnel folks. It's the Syracuse game where he faced a pretty good defense, and it's this Ole Miss game that's coming up Saturday where they're playing an SEC opponent and get a true test of how good Malik Willis can be against some really good competition. And that's what NFL teams want to see. Is he a first-rounder as we sit here? No, even though you just showed the graphic where I had him going to the bottom of the first round. That's based on the ability for him to improve his draft stock by playing well against these good college football teams. He played okay against Syracuse, ratcheted up against Ole Miss, and then he'll be right back in the conversation. All
right, certainly wouldn't be out of the ordinary for the Lions to certainly go up and move them. They look like they need a quarterback. Now, I know a guy you've been in love with since day one, Garrett Wilson, wide receiver out of Ohio State, another one of these OSU guys. Are you still in love with him right now?
Yeah, I mean, it might as well be February 14th because Garrett Wilson is exactly the guy that I thought he was over the summer. He balled out last year with Justin Fields. And sometimes when there's a quarterback change, we can see production levels drop off. Just look at Clemson with Justin Ross, who lost Trevor Lawrence and returned from that injury. Things aren't going quite as well for him with DJ Uiagalelei. That's not the case with Garrett Wilson and C.J. Stroud in that Ohio State offense. And they're so good at the wide receiver position, Mike, that they have Chris Olave, who's probably going to be a first-round pick as well. Jameson Williams had to transfer to Alabama, where he's now balling out. But Garrett Wilson is athletic. He's a yards after the catch guy, even though he doesn't look like it given his build. He's fast. He's quick. He can make contested catches. The only issue is he's had some drops that he needs to sort out. But I think at the end of the day, he will be fine. He's a first-round talent. As we sit here, Mike, he's my wide receiver 1.
Now, let's go back to the QB position real quick for a second, because when we saw that graphic, one name that viewers might have noticed that was left off, Sam Howell out of UNC, highly touted prospect coming out of high school, gotten a lot of love over the last few years, but has he been overvalued for this year's draft?
Yes. And to quote Drew Rosenhaus, next question. Now, so here's the deal with Sam Howell. You're exactly right. Freshman year, he balled out. Last year, he had 2 wide receivers and 2 running backs, all of whom were drafted and are playing in the NFL. We saw Michael Carter last night played really well for a not-so-great Jets team. Javonte Williams, the other running back, has played well for Denver. Sam Howell doesn't have those playmakers around him, and for me, it feels a little bit like what we saw with Jordan Love going from 2018, where he was the man at Utah State, and then everyone left, offensive linemen and playmakers around him, to 2019, where he tried to do too much, and his draft stock took a hit. The thing with Jordan Love is I like Jordan Love when he struggled in 2019. I've never been a huge Sam Howell fan. He started off the season terribly with that game against Virginia Tech where he had 3 interceptions. He's played well recently, played okay in the Notre Dame game that we saw last weekend, but I don't think he's a first-round talent. We'll see how NFL teams think. We know, Mike, that they overvalue his quarterback positions. They'll overdraft him. But for me, he's a day 2 guy who sit here. That doesn't mean he's a bad player, just that he's not a first-round talent right now.
Now, it looks like there's going to be a lot of guys taken in the trenches in that first round. One of them could be Aiden Hutchinson, defensive end out of Michigan. We've talked about him earlier this year. Does he keep continuing to impress you week in and week out?
He's been so good, Mike, that I continue to be blown away with how much he's improved. I watched him in 2019 where there was some draft buzz about him, and I thought he was a day 3 guy. Wasn't playing particularly consistently, snap to snap. Didn't seem to be that strong at the point of attack. That has all changed. He might as well be half J.J. Watt, half T.J. Watt in terms of the strength that he has at the point of attack, his ability with the pass rush moves to get after it like he's T.J. Watt, and to consistently create havoc in the backfield. He is so much fun to watch that I've actually had thoughts that maybe he's better than Kayvon Thibodeau. I don't think he's better than Kayvon Thibodeau. I think it's 1 and 1A, but that's how far he's come, and that's how good he is. And if he ends up going 2nd overall, it would make all the sense in the world to me.
Yeah, certainly making a good impression there. With that, Ryan, thank you so much for your insight. As always, you can always catch Ryan on the Pick 6 podcast. He joins Will Brinson and friends. They keep you up to date on all the latest NFL news. Make sure you check out the Pick 6 podcast for your daily fix.